Hi, this is Carlos from RC Advisor. I wanted to talk today about the second prototype for the Pickerel, which is a small flying wing, about half a pound flying weight. Like I said before, the first one, and it's over here, the first one came out very tail heavy, and I think that was a side effect of the design. There's a lot of taper, and the problem is that there's just not enough room on the nose to move everything forward. So I did a lot of calculations, a lot of exploring and experimenting. This is one of the test cases that I built and flew. Then I built this one, which I just love the look of it. It's a joint wing with raked wingtips. The main problem with this one is that this is 5 inches right here, so I would have had and this is half size, so it would have been 10 inches over here, so I would have had a tough time getting the propeller to fit in there. I built this one, that one, this is about 45 degrees, this is more like 30, and it's got a nice look to it. Of course, I think this one looks a lot nicer. Also, with the test flying that I did, this is the best flying one of all three. It's just very straight, very predictable. Of course, you can always tweak all of them to fly better, but off the bat, that one was the best. So I decided to combine these two ideas, have it look like this, but with 30 degrees, so that the motor and the propeller can fit better in there. So this is what I came up with. This is actually the first version didn't have, it was like this. It was squared off on the front, and the problem that I had is that it would have also still been tail heavy, and I would have had to add a lot of weight back here to balance it out, and it just wasn't flying that well. And I thought about it, okay, what is this one missing? And it was missing that triangle in the front. Again, I built it like this. And this aluminum foil that you see is just folded over pieces of aluminum foil as a trim tab, and it works reasonably well. This is a throwaway prototype. So anyway, I added the triangle in the front, and all of a sudden, I added there's 2 pennies taped on there for balance, and it did have a little bit of a directional issue, just like this one. So I added a rudder. Of course, the rudder is really not that big, given that it's a much bigger model. And in fact, it really probably needs to be a little bigger than that. But anyway, as it stands right now, with the 2 pennies on the nose extension, with a small rudder, and the trim tabs. So the trim tabs can be in neutral. This one flies great. In fact, it really flies just as well as this one. And it just wants to glide, and I can launch it, and it just goes and goes, really nice. So I like this so much that I said, okay, I think it's time to go up and do a full size, quotes, full size version, and that's what this is. I've been working on this since yesterday, and it looks a little different than this one. And at first I was because the angle is just not right, it's a little bit different, but I checked all my calculations, and they're right. So I think it has to do more than anything with the size of the foam board. They're not exactly 30 by 20. I know this one was more like 29 or 29 and a half. So I'm thinking that's what must have led to the different shape, the angle being more acute. Because I've checked all my calculations, and I've measured and remeasured it, and it's right. So anyway, but this is a prototype. I'm trying to keep the weight down. That first prototype was really strong, but you pay for the strength. You pay because it's going to weigh a little more. So I first built it just with the 8-inch dowel, all along the leading edge on both sides, The reinforcement is more like 25% of the cord. You know, on that one definitely it was like 50%. So that was, the foam was also going to weigh more. But there was no other reinforcement. But it was just too flexible. You know, I could bend it just too easily. So then I added this square dowel here. It's I think that's I think it's 3/16 because it's the same height as one sheet of the foam from the foam board. Before I had this a lot longer, and I said, okay, well, you know, if I'm gonna reinforce it right there, it might be good enough just to have it go up to there, and you know, this is feeling a bit too flexible to me right now. So I think I'm going to at least double up the foam over here like I did before, and that should help with that. In fact, I can go beyond here, so I can have this whole, you know, piece of foam here. That will help a lot. Otherwise, it seems to be okay. You know, it's a bit flexible back here, and in fact, I don't think I can launch it by, you know, like I did with the smaller one by grabbing it. I need to put a rudder here too. So I'm going to have to side launch it like I did with the other prototype. That should work out okay. But what I'm thinking is that it would have been nice if I had been able to put in, just like I did here, put a reinforcing square dowel, you know, all the way across. And it's just, you know, the angle is just a little bit too acute for that to fit in. You can see. So I think for the next prototype, I'm going to reduce this angle, so then I can have the piece of wood go from end to end, kind of like this one, but back there, and I think that will go a long way to stiffening that part. The front, I didn't feel like I needed the piece of wood all the way down to the nose. I think these two dowels are going to hold it together. Again, you know, we'll see. You know, the whole thing is definitely a bit on the flexible side, especially back here, but there's not going to be anything back there, and I don't have to worry too much about crash damage, so, you know, it might be fine. My thought is to put the control surfaces actually back here. So I built it, you know, I'm checking it out, see how it goes, but I think I'm going to just cut it here. I'll probably get rid of that wooden, you know, round dowel back here. So just cut it here and hinge it, and that's going to be the control surface. You know, I'm going to use servo extensions. I've checked the weight and balance. I think as it is right now, it's only 2.6 ounces, which is really good. And the weight and balance, I've checked it, you know, using this one, and it needs to be, you know, a little bit behind this step here. And it should be very easy to get it there because I can move the battery, and I think the balance, you know, is going to come out just great, you know, without me having to do much to tweak it and push it where I need it to. So anyway, you know, this is getting there. It's getting close. I think it's looking really promising. You know, with only 2.6 ounces, you know, the flying weight, I don't know, it might be 7. As opposed to 9.5, which was, you know, the first prototype. So that's a lot better. Of course, it doesn't have the same wing area, but the other one just had way too much wing area anyway. So I'm expecting this one to be a lot of fun to fly. Again, the Pickerel name, you know, says, and just to point out, this is no longer a flying wing. This is actually it's a joint wing with great wing tips. But it's really a tandem wing, which is why, you know, there's two steps. And I think I'm going to make this step here in the front maybe a little bigger. I don't know. You know, these are things that are easy to change. I mean, it needs to be strong enough to fly, and I think it's strong enough to fly. Again, you know, there's some flexibility. But anyway, it's coming together. I think it's looking good. I may even be ready to test fly it tomorrow. So, you know, then we'll see. Anyway, till next time.